Hello, I'm Philippa East, author of Little White Lies. Little White Lies tells the story of the White family whose daughter Abigail has been missing for 7 long years. The book starts though with the miraculous news that Abigail has been found alive and is coming home. You might think this would be the happily ever after for the family, but right from the first moments of their reunification, Mother Anne finds it heartbreakingly difficult to reconnect with her now teenage daughter. And what's more, Abigail's return threatens to reveal what really happened on the day she disappeared. Little White Lies is my debut, and it's the first novel that I've had published, although not the first novel that I've ever tried to write. So where did the inspiration for Little White Lies come from? I actually think it was a case of 2 ideas coming together. The first was when I caught a snippet on the news about a Spanish a family whose teenager had disappeared for a few weeks and then come home, and there was lots of question marks over what had happened in that time, whether she had been abducted or whether there was something else entirely going on. And there was a shot on the news of the family all sitting in a courtroom, and I just remember thinking, what on earth is going through their minds right now? Do they trust each other? Who knows what? What on earth are they all feeling? The second inspiration came from an experience I had when I was travelling on a bus in London, one of the classic red London buses. And there was a mother with a buggy and a small child trying to get on, and the bus had pulled up at the stop. The mum had managed to wrestle the buggy onto the bus, and the kid was still on the pavement waiting to get on as well. But the driver assumed that once the mum had got the buggy on, that was all that she needed, and he closed the doors, and the kid was left on the pavement as the driver put his foot down. Luckily, everybody on the bus shouted, "No!" The driver quickly stopped and opened the doors again, and the family were reunited. But I remember thinking, wow, what if something happened in that split moment of separation, and where could that lead? So I had these 2 ideas floating around, but I think it's when they bumped together in my mind that I realised I might have enough of our foundation for a whole 90,000 word novel. So I had the cornerstones for the story, but now I had to write it, and quite quickly I ran into a problem, a fairly tricky problem. It felt that way to me, at least. The book starts with Abigail being found and coming home, and I was pretty sure it's a pretty good premise for a novel. I knew there was lots of books and psychological thrillers out there about missing people or gone people, but nothing really about the story that might happen after someone came home. And the truth was, I actually had no idea myself what might happen from that point on either. The heartbreaking fact is that it's really rare for people or children who've been missing for months or years to ever be found. And even with such cases, a lot of the books, fiction and non-fiction, written about them are about the efforts to find the child or about the person's experience of captivity itself. But I was trying to start my story where those books tended to end, and I just had no idea really what qualified me to tell that story or how on earth I was going to do it. That really stumped me for a while, until I realised that while I didn't have direct experience of a case like Abigail's, I maybe did have some experience that I could draw on. In my day job, I work as a clinical psychologist and therapist, and I continue to practice alongside my writing. A few years ago, I held a job in the NHS working with adult survivors of childhood trauma. In the book, Abigail, against all odds, has escaped her captivity and survived her abduction. And in the same way, the clients that I was working with had survived their childhood experiences, physically at least. But for both Abigail and my clients, this was where a whole new journey now began. I realised that Little White Lies is really about a family trying to heal from the very worst of traumas. And it focuses deeply on the relationship between Abigail and her family, particularly with her mother Anne. And the more I wrote, the more I found myself delving into themes that I'd encountered many times in my therapy work. These were issues of responsibility and guilt, the desire that we instinctively have to avoid the things that are most painful, and the healing power of acknowledging what's gone wrong. I like to think that the book is a great page turner with lots of twists and turns to entertain you. For me, though, it was these themes, my characters' efforts to grapple with them, that formed the heart of the novel for me and made it so special to write. So to finish up, here's a little extract from the prologue of the book to give you a little bit of a taster. For the longest time, the police could only find fragments of her, despite all our search posters, all our appeals. A few seconds of grainy, jerky CCTV footage, the tiny handful of frames they retrieved from the hundreds and thousands they trawled, an image of a little girl who stands on the upbound escalator of a tube station, her face tilted toward the bright lights above. For years I had hardly anything but those fragments. As a family we floundered in a stubborn, hopeless hoping, with jobs and school and birthdays and Christmases all waterlogged with her loss. That's how it was before, at least, for those 7 years that she was missing. It was when she was found that all the rest began, all that led up to that night on the bridge, when I had to account for everything I had done, and ultimately everything I had not. Thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in the book, do have a read, and yeah, happy reading. Bye for now.